Welcome, everybody, to Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week we're dipping toes right back into Donkey Kong with Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. And this, and rightly so, is considered one of the best games of the SNES era and one of the best of all time, even almost 30 years later. Because it took what Donkey Kong Country 1 did, added some new things, changed up a few of the mechanics, made everything bigger, brighter, maybe on occasion a little bit more difficult. Also added in a bunch of new toys, new animal buddies, a lot more progressions and bonus items, bonus stages. It's just more of the same, but a tighter experience, stronger experience, more thematic. And in so doing, I'd say this is the strongest one, the best one, and there's like no weaknesses to this game at all. So we ended Donkey Kong Country 1. King K. Rool got beat the crap up and beaten up, and the banana horde is back. However, little time later, he comes back and he kidnaps Donkey Kong. So, what is Diddy to do? Turns out, he's got a girlfriend known as Dixie, and she's awesome. And those two will go and try and deal with the now christened Captain K. Rool on a new island full of pirates and piratey themed stuff and try and get Donkey Kong back. And that similar setup is for Donkey Kong Country 3, but I'll deal with that in a different time. But another simple setup, because it's Donkey Kong Country 2, you don't really need too much explanation. And really, it's just a backdrop for the gameplay, and the gameplay is very strong. A lot of the same things apply, but what I found interesting about Donkey Kong Country 2 is the expansive nature of it, but more so the verticality. A lot of Donkey Kong Country 1 was straightforward. You had some fun gimmicks, minecart levels, barrel levels, whatnot, but a lot of stuff was down. And I think this did really well in, I'd say, adding that Super Mario 2 or specifically Mega Man verticality to the formula a bit more. And a lot of levels, whether they were early on or late, and they all had gimmicks, which is good because the first game did have gimmicks to their levels. This had a lot of verticality to it, added a bit of a dimension to things, and even some boss fights. I think one in particular against Crow was vertical based, so you had a lot of climbing and avoiding things, or you had to climb and avoid an obstacle at the bottom, or a couple of obstacles, whether it be slime at the bottom or a moving tower of doom that would crush you. So that was the thing that I remember most looking back on things with Donkey Kong Country 2. That and Dixie. So, who is Dixie? She's Diddy's girlfriend. But what does she do? Well, Diddy is pretty agile, pretty fast. He does rolling cartwheels and stuff. And I like using Diddy in the first game. And technically he is faster, so there is a mechanical difference. But Dixie is broken. That helicopter spin with her hair is just too good. In vertical levels, trying to find bonus stages, all that stuff, Dixie is the best. And I'm glad that in the third game, you keep her again. It's just so nice. It was a not as amazing thing as Peach in Mario 2, but it's a similar concept. The hanging, the slight delay in her fall because she's spinning, the fact you can use her hair as a hair whip, and do all that fun stuff. I'd say mechanically, with barrels, they are different. Diddy still has his front shield kind of mechanic. Dixie is up top with her hair. So if you're guarding against stuff on the bottom, from the bottom, and say you have a boss fight, or mechanically, you can use Dixie to hold a barrel or something. Diddy can hold it in front. So that's a huge difference. Because Donkey Kong did it, but he was at kind of an angle when you held up in the air. And like I said, there wasn't as much verticality in DKC1, so him holding the barrel up in the air or whatever didn't hold much. Hers is directly above her. So as long as the enemy's above them, or if they're shooting a projectile, it's perfect. She's guarded against the top, at least for a second. And that can play into avoiding damage. Or when you're throwing, Diddy throws from his line. Dixie throws at a bit of an arc. So there's a bit of a difference there. So they do play mechanically different. Not as drastic a difference as Donkey Kong is, but they're both faster than Donkey Kong. So that helps with how fast this game wants to go. I talked before about the pirate theme. The pirate theme is strong with this one, and it is really well done, and I enjoy that piratey theme because it's done, but it's not overwhelming because it's not just pirate level, pirate level, pirate level, pirate level. I felt with the first game, they ran out of ideas in the final level, and they just reused mine levels or caves again. They didn't have that problem this time. They specifically made every place feel different. And not just that, like if they reused levels, but they only did it so often, they would kind of bring back a level idea in the next area again, just to reinforce that, hey, we brought this place back, so you kind of know what you're in for. But you had new level ideas, like a beehive. You got water levels that are like underneath pirate ships or inside pirate ships and brigs. You've got all this cool stuff, again, beehives where you get sticky honey and you get stuck in it, or you have Rambi running away from a giant bee. You've got a carnival level, an amusement park ride level. A lot of it is minecart related, but again, they do so much with the minecart idea in this one, because in the last one they gave you like 2 or 3 levels, and you're just trying to get to the end of the stage. But this time, you're doing hits and barrels, so you open the gates, or you get hurt, or you can't progress. You got one where you're racing dudes, and you have to get rid of all of the dudes, one of them like right at the end of the stage, to win the stage, or to get a bonus or whatever. There's another one in a different setting, like a haunted house or a haunted library setting later on, with the minecart, where the music changes and the ghost is chasing you. So you have a time limit to open the gates and open the door and get away from them, or you take damage. So they do enough with the minecarts to make it feel fresh. It also helps that the minecarts look like rats or skull heads, so it's even more metal, which is great. And it changes the dynamic a bit. They're giving you things that you had in the first game, but they're doing different things with it. The animals are slightly different. You get Squitter the spider, who shoots webs, and you can also like jump on the webbing and get places. It's very useful in the 5th level, where there's a lot of wind and a lot of ghosts and gusts and just stuff. You've got Squawks the parrot, who can show up in some of the Bramble levels. And oh god, the Bramble levels. I gotta spend time talking about that, but I'll in a minute. Because specifically for a reason. I'm saving those for a reason. But you got Squawks the parrot, and you've got Quawks the parrot, who's worse in every way because he only goes down. He's only there for a certain level. And I think it's a hornet level where they're going down and they're avoiding bees the whole way down. But Squawks can shoot, pellets or birdseed, or I forget what they're doing. He always just shoots out pellets or something. You got Squawks, you got Rambi, you got Espresso, or not Espresso. Espresso was one of the ones they got rid of because he was kind of floaty and kind of weird. But On Guard, I was thinking of On Guard. Unguard the Swordfish, I think, is the only one that shows up for the every game. I know Squitter shows up for the third one. I forget if I don't think Rambi shows up for the third one for some reason. They replaced him with an elephant. Why, I don't know. Rambi was cool, but Unguard, Swordfishy, love Swordfish. It's my favorite. And I don't. Oh yeah. There's Rattly the Rattler, and he just jumps high. So on some of the vertical stages, he's great. But mechanically, he's the hardest to work with. He's kind of slippery, being a snake, and you just kind of a little bit. Let's see if there's any other ones. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But yes, every stage has gimmicks, and I talked about the minecart ones. I talked about those. The levels are pieced together very well. You have the first stage, which is very piratey themed. There's a lot less jungle stuff. There's more in the bayou, but there are still some jungles, but that's the Lost World jungle. So they're not focused on the jungle mechanic as much. So they're able to experiment a bit more. The pirate theme is just amazing in the first level. Then you've got the second level, which is the hot level, but you get cool ideas like jumping on gator heads or crocodile heads to avoid falling in the lava. The one in particular that is memorable, whether it's good or bad, is the hothead. Well, not the hothead hop, but the air one, where you're flying on air balloons and they're going until you hit the water. Or hit the air and the steam rises the balloons back up, and you got to keep jumping on balloons, and you keep getting the steam rise, and you got to avoid enemies along the way. So you do that one. It's interspersed with mine levels, so going into mine shafts, and those are where the vertical stages usually are. Third level, I'm okay with the bayou, but they don't do much with the mechanic. I ended up liking it more than I used to, but that's mostly due to the music. The bayou is just pretty safe. It doesn't really do much. It's just there. The fourth level is the fun one because it gives you those minecart levels and the amusement park backdrop, and then it mixes it with a couple of Hornet ones. I'm not a huge fan of the Hornet levels, but the beehive aesthetic, it's just very bright. The honey gives you a little bit of a difficult terrain to run around in, and the fact that you're using Rambi and just kind of running your ass away from the giant boss of the level is kind of neat. You face off against him before you face off against him, so you're running away from him and then getting away from him, and then you get your revenge later. So then you're doing the Gusty Glade, which is a lot of ghost levels, a lot of foresty stuff, very serene, very haunting, very, stuff like that. And then you climb the K. Rool Fortress, the Kremling Fortress, and then you do the Lost World. And the Lost World is unique because you don't really have to do it. It's bonus levels, and they do this in 3 as well. The idea of bonus stages. While you're collecting all your shit and you collect Krem coins, if you collect all 75, which includes beating K. Rool at the end of the game, you can, this big guy with this club, you just pay him a bribe and he'll let you go to the Lost World. You get through the stages, you can open up the final fight against K. Rool. And the first fight against K. Rool is not too bad. He's shooting you with a musket or a blunderbuss or something, fitting the pirate mechanic. And he's running around the stage and you're trying to dodge it, and then he'll shoot spike balls, and then he'll shoot some that don't have spikes, and you throw them back at him. It's really simple and really... But then the Lost World happens, and oh, good God, he shoots faster. He shoots this weird smoke at you, this ghostly smoke. It's just so much fucking harder because he just doesn't stop. And you beat him, and then you beat the game. But they made K. Rool way, way, way harder. So if you're looking for a bigger challenge, that Lost World, the world itself, has a lot more challenges, a lot more danger, because they mix and match a lot of the ice levels, the jungle levels, and any level you've had before. They just make it harder. It's kind of like Star World in Super Mario World. Same idea. Harder, so if you're looking for a bigger challenge, because Donkey Kong Country's never been like the worst in terms of difficulty. It's pretty middle of the road. Like, you're gonna struggle at some points, but I think even compared to 1, I don't think 2 is all that challenging. It's just bigger. There's just more of it. I think there were some things in 3, like Toxic Pond, that messed with your control and shit that was worse than this game. This is a lot more straightforward. Like, you know what the gimmicks of the stages are, whether the wind is... It's just like, there's a level in 5 where the wind is kind of messing with you, and there's always these death pits. So the wind is changing left and right, and you got to deal with it. But other than that, nothing really crazy. But I do want to mention the music, because I mentioned it before. David Wise in the first game was amazing. He topped himself somehow in the second. And I'm not even just talking those levels, because you know where I'm going with this. Almost every song in this game is great in one way or another. I do have some specific ones that are really good. I'd say the piratey ones, the Jib Jig, the Clomps Romp, you know, the initial stage, and all that stuff. Lockjaw's Saga, the drums in the water brig levels, you know, almost like Terminator kind of thing. Because the ambiance that he builds with the music before the music starts is good. And there are some songs that don't do that. Sometimes the songs just go right into it. But by and large, everything's good. I talked about the Bayou stages. Even the Bayou stages that I didn't really like, the music still carried it. The Gusty Glade stuff, the Forest was good. You know, Forest Interlude was really good. My 2 favorites, though, were Mining Melancholy, so the minecart levels, and of course, Sticker Brush Symphony. Because why would I not talk about Sticker Brush Symphony? The Bramble levels are this game's minecart levels. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and they all do different things. Sometimes they're barrels, sometimes you're using squawks to carry you, sometimes you're using squawks to race another squawks, essentially, and beat him before he beats you. But the brambles themselves are an obstacle. And then all the while you're going through this stage, and the backdrop is these mixed, you know, this bright, jungly looking thorn stuff, whether it's purple backgrounds, bright blues, it is distinct, all punctuated by like a 4 to 5 minute song that is just magic. It reminded me of Aquatic Ambiance from the first game, but so much better, where it took you on a journey, slowly building, slowly giving you something, just the ambiance, the setting, the mood. And it wasn't until like a minute into it where the subtle drums start kicking in, and even the drums, the song feels kind of fast, but then the drums kick in, and then the drums kind of feel, oh no, this is kind of slow, and it just works. Because the drums don't kick in right away. And the song just keeps on building and keeps on building. And that's why it really stands the test of time, is because everything about it just adds to, what is this new setting? You know, because we've seen minecart levels, we've seen caves, fire, even the piratey stuff, I'm sure we've seen that in other games. But these brambles, these thorns, what in the hell is this? And then you're adding in this song that is so different than anything you'd hear, because it's mood music. And that's the best way I would describe how the soundtrack fits. Because, again, there are some times where it's just not even mood music. It'll just go into it. And then the third game, and I think that's something that the third game does lack quite a bit, is that sense of building anticipation for what the main part of the track is going to be, giving you the sense of wonder. Because it's not silence. It's building the song within the song, so that when the parts of the songs hit, you're already kind of hooked into the song, right? Because before even the best parts, the hooks happen, you're like, what is going on? And that's why a Mining Melancholy works great. It's got that like striking the iron sort of sound effect for the drums. Mining Melancholy does the same thing. Sticker Brush Symphony is more well known, but they both feed off that, create something that gets you involved first and then hit you with the hooks in the middle of the song, and then you were like, oh, it's going to keep me going while I'm trying to deal with the song. So even separating the songs themselves from the stages, they're still good pieces of music. But the fact that they fit the themes so well is what transcends, and there's not really any bad ones. I was trying to look for like, no. There is just like no fat on this game at all. You don't even have that like middle stage or like that late stage problem of DKC1 where they reuse all the mine stuff or all of the second level and they just reuse it for the fifth or the sixth level. That was like my big concern with the first game. In this one, they give you all of the areas, you know, the ice worlds, the Hornet level with the amusement park stages in between, all of that stuff. Every stage is done over and over again, but the worlds themselves are all different. So you're still given that. And the bosses are expanded too. There is one instance where one comes back, but by and large, the bosses actually feel like proper bosses instead of, hey, I'm guarding a thing, kill me. They're not hard, but they feel more threatening. They feel more like they belong as enemies. They're not reusing bosses. They're not just there to end the level, because I never felt like any of the bosses in the first game were all that much threatening. This is at least a step upwards where they feel like they're proper bosses that can be problematic. Again, they have all their gimmicks, and I don't think they're on the harder side, but I think they're fun. And that's the benefit of having a second game, is they already kind of knew what worked in the first game, but they added so much more. The verticality, Dixie's new concepts, new friends, changing up some of the environments, but bringing them back when they needed to, reusing assets when they needed to, changing the music to be every song is amazing. So that's why Donkey Kong Country 2 is widely considered one of the best, and I'm pretty sure everybody's played it, or at least wanted to play it. I'm pretty sure it's on like the Switch Online, because that's unfortunate. Like, they only had Donkey Kong Country 1 on the SNES Classic, which is a real shame, because this one also deserved to be there, and to a lesser extent 3. But I'll get into 3 some other day. So would I recommend Donkey Kong Country 2? Well, gee, I wonder what you're gonna say. What? Yeah, of course I would. There is nothing wrong with Donkey Kong Country 2 at all. It's the perfect length, the perfect difficulty. There's enough cool stuff and all the different bonus stages that if you're a completionist, if you're not a completionist, if you're just playing for the fun of it, to experience it, if you played it again, you're speed running the damn thing. You'll find something engaging to do with this game. This was my jam back in 1995. You know, when I wasn't playing RPGs like I am now, this was the sort of game that I loved. And I loved re-experiencing it, because this is where Donkey Kong Country solidified itself and exceeded even its lofty expectations. But that'll do it for me. And let's see what's on the docket for other stuff going forward. Give me 1 second to load little Discord screen, because we've got lots and lots of stuff here. Let's go to the thing here. And yes, that was Donkey Kong Country 2. So next week is going to be Lupin the Third, the woman called Fujiko Mine. Talk about a change of tack. And then Rogue Galaxy, Tenchi Muyo and Tenchi Universe. I'm specifically keeping it to those because those were the good ones. Everything else has been kind of... Final Fantasy V, which I'm starting right now as we speak. And Snow White with the red hair. And I'll get some new polls going, and somebody dropped some stuff outside. They dropped a wrench outside. Yay! Right as I was about to end my freaking announcement. Isn't trying to record in a building fun? It's like waiting for ambulances. Anyway, you'll never know. Anyway, while I deal with whatever happened outside, I'll call this an episode, and I'll see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.